So to continue this thought process, we're really marrying for a handful of schools of thought, and not to overcomplicate things, but price action. Larry Williams is two of Larry Williams's indicators, a little bit of volatility theory and some moving average stuff with anchored volume weighted average price. So let's continue this, and let's see where we could have pegged this. So we had another good deviation here near the 1.25. So this market shoots up, hits the 1.25. Very stiff resistance exists at 1.25. The market doesn't have enough energy to break out to the upside. It just can't do it. Why did it happen here and it didn't happen here? I couldn't begin to tell you why the market decided to do that, or why market makers did what they did. Were they putting a little pressure on the shorts? Were they looking to gain a better position? Is it market manipulation? Probably, hell yes. There's probably a lot of that going on. So we did have a nice a deviation that was working for us on the 12-hour. 1.25, that's two confluences, and we're overbought. That's three really good confluences, and we're up near, above that control price in a higher value area. You just don't want to be a buyer up there, so you're gonna have to fight it off on the lower time frames. And then we had, let's take a look at this. Did we even have a deviation when this market started? At least on the 12-hour. At least on the 12-hour did we have. They started to show up on other time frames. But from this area to this area, did we have a deviation? No, we didn't have one. We did not have one. We were not near the 1.25. We were up over control price though. And did it look like we wanted, just based on the control, that they wanted to regain? So at the very beginning of this trend, it was difficult for the market to break out, but they eventually did. We break out of the 1.25. We're trending higher. It looks a lot different than this move up here. Does this look more sustainable, like the market is starting to make a move outside of this 1.25 deviation and the 2.25 deviation? So we had here's this strong move that happened, back here, that wasn't sustainable. But does this look more sustainable as the market starts to gain momentum to the upside? Hindsight, looking back, maybe, but we did break this down on the lower time frames. So, and we'll look at that shortly. Did we know? Did we have any indication that this was going that direction? So far as deviations go, this was not a good deviation. Why? Because we weren't making a higher high with the price. Were we deviating back here? There wasn't a great deal to work with in this area. We had to get down on a lower time frames to see what was going on. We did have a nice deviation here though, finally. So from this high to this high, did we have a deviation? It was really weak in this area. Price starts to break quite a bit higher, and higher still when this market move and the CPI report and everything else. But then we started to get actually a nice, handsome deviation that started to show up on this time frame. We are on the 12-hour oversold. Sellers are still in control of this market. Here is a single volume weighted average price from this pivot that we have been working with, and it's been pretty good for the time being. Let's make an adjustment to this channel so that we can take a look at 1.25 deviations. Seeing transition, oops, I was on the wrong screen here. Let's look at this. I did not put the 1.25 deviations. I mentally put these up here, but I did not. I did not put them on this chart. Let's change the upper deviations from the control price here, because I think that this was a relatively good control price. I think that we were working with. I haven't redrawn this in some time, but the lower 1.25 looked good. And excuse me. And I do believe that the control price looked pretty darn decent on the 12-hour chart. So here is your 2.25 deviations from the control that we've been working with. And let's clean this deviation off, and let's also put a 3.25 deviation on the chart. It doesn't matter which time frame you're working with. 3.25 deviations is telling us the market may have pushed a little bit too far. A little bit too far, a little bit too fast. So this is really depicting the strength of this trend, right? We're up near the 3.25 deviation from the control price. It's not smart to be a buyer up here, regardless of the fact that they, and these are my words, I just don't think that it's smart to be a buyer if you have an established channel near 3.25 deviations from the control price. It's not a place that I'm interested in being a buyer. Now, regardless of the fact that the market continued to push higher and higher and higher and higher, was it, and in hindsight, was it smart? Was it very smart to be a buyer up there? Or are you filling the positions of market makers this high into a trend, chasing price up here? And we're going to get to that in just a second. 3.25 dv, is it smart to be a buyer up here? No. And market makers let us know that this was not a smart idea. It was not a good idea to be chasing it. But above the 1.25, yeah, there is a considerable amount of strength up here. 1.25, 2.25, and then pushing outside of 3.25. So we break into 3.25, break back into the 2.25. Now this market has broken back into the 1.25 deviation. Until we meet this control price, which is volatility theory, which is the same thing that we're explaining in the lower time frames, is that price should technically come back, and it doesn't matter if it trades sideways and compresses for a month or 2 months or 3 months. Realistically, it should meet back with control price. If we break back into that 1.25 deviation, if we have a spot on control price. Was that the case here? We broke outside of 1.25, market's not ready to trend higher just yet. We break back in with force and we come and meet control price. Doesn't mean it can't come back down to the 1.25, but this channel was not established until right about here. We were not keyed in here. I mean, we probably could have established this back here with this 1, 2, 3 points of interest. Would it have given us a better control? I mean, we can redraw this in a second, but better buying opportunities, 1.25, probably your best opportunity in a value area. But nobody really knew that this was going to go in that direction until we broke this down on a lower time frame. So back in the 1.25, we're going to meet that control price or that volume weighted average price if you're a moving average type person. I tag this because we haven't revisited this volume weighted average price in some time, right? This is the last time we met that. When we came through it just a little bit here, but it was a solid place to think about that. Bouncing off the 2.25, bouncing off the volume weighted average price. We're right above control. This looked like a better buying opportunity if you're a swing trader, right? Obviously, a whole different story when you're broken down on the intraday charts. So, okay, let's continue this here. I love this stuff, guys. This is what I get up for in the morning. So, let's get into a part 4 of this video so that we're not running over.